And when we ended the last tape, we just let it run off to the end, and Les was busy coming up with a way of getting these Coke bottle curves. Notice that we're doing the bottom of the wing first because we like to fine-tune our illustrious technique. Anyway, he came up with a way, and it's on the last tape, of put a piece of tubing there, making up a template. Now we're going to pull the template away and try to get the ink line that'll have a reflective curve in it. Original template, and that did the first of our 4 lines. Now we're going to hopefully, you can leave the tape on that, so it's oh no, we got to take it to cut the next edge.
Right.
And then we're going to transpose it out to get these lines that go right along the edge of the nacelle. And you could do the cheat way. You could just put a straight line an inch away, but the problem is Les Demet is a master, and he cannot accept anything other than total perfection.
This was my airplane.
We'd already be flying it. No, this is working great.
No. If this was my airplane, this is how we do it. Since it's your airplane.
Yeah. Put chewing gum on the wing or something. Close enough. I knew you'd love me.
Close enough.
Boy, Chicky's not influencing you lately.
Huh? No.
How much different is this? This one is doable, or we gotta just knock a high point down?
We gotta. What I'd like you to do.
Let's just run a pen along there.
Yeah, take the pencil right there.
Okay. Well, Les did, and it's a nice way to do this. We want to get this thickness the same on both sides. So what he did, he took a reading with a piece of masking tape and a pen, and now he's using that to line up the template for this piece of ink.
I think if you draw it the way we see it, you got it.
If you draw it, they will come.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was a good way of getting the alignment so that the two are the same thickness. Now I'm using a piece of tape because I want to connect to the de-icer boot. Bird's got the cheese. Hey, provolone cheese. He took a bath and then he stole your cheese, Les.
That's all right.
He just ripped off Les's cheese.
That's all right.
5. Now this side, we're going to hope that we can make one template and just fine-tune it to the other side.
Well, that's what we did with the.
Yeah, in theory they should be real close, but you know, because of that, we're not as perfect as we think we are. Yeah, balsa wood, we sanded one a little more or whatever.
Now.
In an average semi-scale plane like this, there's a lot of template making, and you always have the choice of not doing it. But I think this is what sets it apart. This is the stuff that, when you pop it down in front of 20 or 30 other planes, or 50 or whatever, then you see who put the extra little effort in. Now the next ink line we want to get, we're going to bend the green template to carry that line down through the fillet and out. Right out here. Now where do the lines that come into the body, do they intercept that? No. Okay, so then we don't have to match anything up.
I don't think there's, wait a minute, let me look at that.
You got your drawing?
It does, it's one of the things that matters least, Wendy.
Okay, well Les made up this little drawing for the, but if you wanted to connect those, this would be the time to figure it out.
Yeah, but see, it's really too far back for it to be scaled.
Okay, yeah, no, I'd rather have it scaled. They don't have to connect.
No, they don't. Because I figured our main line will be somewhere in here.
In other words, this line is going to come down into that line and then dead end. Yep. Okay. Okay, that's it. Okay, you got the proportion that we're going to use for these?
No, that's what I'm looking for now.
Once these edges are in, doing the straight lines, it goes relatively quickly.
Fairly close to
the electrosets.
High tech. I can smell your brain cooking on this high tech stuff going on here.
No, you to smell you. That's wood burning.
What's he eating over there? He's eating those pens. Every time I look for my pens, there's parts missing and stuff.
Yeah.
Taking the pens out of the package over there. Hey!
7/8.
You just can't get enough of those pens.
Gets closer.
Okay, you got the dimension we're going to use, 7/8?
Well, no, that's the dimension at the tip. In the inboard here, it's probably going to be about 1.25 inches.
Here's what we're trying to figure out is we want the line, as if the nacelle wasn't there, to continue on in one straight line. And I have a feeling if it's off by too much, it's gonna be pretty obvious that it's off, you know? Anyway, this is really the second of the inking videos. We got a lot of the little ins and outs on the first one. This is Long Straight Wing Lines by Les Demet. How to make them look like they're perfect.
Maybe a little bit further forward.
The ink now. Hey, get away from that ink! Hey! He's got the ink. Look at him, Les. He's got the ink.
Alignment.
You wanna give me the alignment off of the reference point here,
No,
or off the fuselage?
just hold.
I got the ruler.
Hold the ruler at the nacelle.
Now what am I trying to line up here?
Forward. Shit.
Are you picking up your reference point off of there? Reference
Forward.
line. Gives us the estimated time of arrival for that piece. And the other piece he's got up against the fuselage, which will allow us to put the furthermost back ink line on. Let's say we're averaging an hour and a half an ink line. The trick is once we have one wing laid out, then we can go and measure it and transpose it over to the other wing. But we got to get the first wing to where Les is happy with it. And because this is a highly tapered wing, it actually tapers some to the tip. And we're trying to keep that look, which would be kind of prototypical for this plane. So what Les is doing is by laying it out in tape, now we can look at the tape and does it connect? Does it look like it's right? If it looks back, forward, we can move the tape until we get that. We have to do several of these lines, by the way, until we get them that they look right. You look that way?
Too far forward.
Oh yeah, you're too far forward by an eighth of an inch. Put a tape behind that, and I think you'll have it.
Yeah, we just.
Looks like you're out by an eighth of an inch. Mind, this is the bottom of the plane. This is the part nobody is going to see, except
also
you,
this-
Les, and I, and we're the only two ever going to see the bottom of this plane. Luckily, we don't have a line that's going to go up straight over the nacelle and down the other side. Well, we'd really be in trouble here. We'd really have to be on our toes. Yes? No?
Don't like it for some reason, and I think the reason is that I've managed to curve it here. Hey!
Hey, Care.
Very stinky down there.
Stinky! I don't smell a thing!
You know what I just realized?
What?
I can't even without my purse.
No purse? So we got the first one of the lines on now. Do you want to go now right over to the other wing and do the other wing, or
No,
do you want to
no,
do a whole panel?
I want to finish the back line complete on one side, and we'll go to school on that.
Yeah. Well, we actually go to school on this whole bottom, and when we get to the top, we're going to be masters of distress. Line lines up. This lines
The
up
end of the
just
flap.
like the real plane.
Yep.
So we're getting a couple of prototypical things in here. Now you got one, what, right about at the high point? What do you look-
Actually, forward of the high point, right?
Forward to the high point, okay. Well, let's,
But what I want to do, Wendy, is I want to get the couple of details in here. I want to get this, the continuation. Now, there should
Okay.
be a light line that goes, use the light pen.
so this is Les's
Don't for-
interpretation of, let's see how many more of these we have. So we're gonna go to the big side now.
What do you mean?
The next line is the one just past the high point.
This, oh, yeah.
And this is a critical line because again, it's one of the ones that goes in theory, right through the nacelle. You know, it'd be nice to have for this job a laser level. Laser level would shoot a line right out there.
Absolutely.
How's that look? Got to give it
So a line is bent.
the Demet eye.
The tape, when you lay tape like that, it,
Yeah, we know it's crooked, but the ruler will straighten that out. As long as you
all
got
right, what we have to use for pickup point, I'll mark them, so we'll be very, very cognizant of what's going on. We have to use the back of this piece of tape here.
when I remember the first couple times we ever inked a plane, just taking those templates that are toilets and toilet seats and flower pots and randomly putting them all over the plane and thinking, wow, I inked my own plane, wow. And then I think, here we are. We're 40 hours into the ink work on this plane, and we don't have the bottom done yet.
And
647 might have been New York 20 only London station. Hard my heart, that's what I'm going to do. Quarter
You
flight.
know, you got to get it perfect. Al Raby will eyeball that up, and he'll say, you guys don't know anything about
you
stunt.
can't see it.
We'll put blinders on him when we see him. So that ends day one of the big ink, A26 inking. One panel is done. One side of one panel. Russ is going to try to get in tomorrow or Wednesday, and we'll try to finish up the bottom, and then we have to, of course, do the top. But so far, so good. Now, what I did today, I'm waiting. I'm hoping Les is going to be here later today. I started laying out the gear doors on this in ink, kind of prototypical. That's what they look like, and we've made a kind of a simulation of them. But what I'm going to do before I do the rest of the ink, it's really, with these things, it's just so much easier to have two people around, one person to work on the, to hold the ruler and things. It's pointless to try to do this on my own, because there's just little things I can do, like the doors, like some of the line. I can do some lines on the nacelles or something, but that's not real important. These are the lines that have to be in the way I want to do this. They have to line up, and they have to be relatively prototypical, or it really doesn't look right. Like I said, and I've been the guilty one in the past, just buying one of these templates with toilets and flower pots and stuff and gluing them all over. And it looks so, to me, you'd be better off not inking a plane if you do that. Speaking of being better off, what are you looking at? Hey, you want to go to Texas? What are you doing? You get away from that plane. Don't you go near that plane. Oh, I'm waiting for Les to get here. One of the tricks that I found that works real well is take one of these templates and just trim off the edge of it, because you need it to be about 1/4 of an inch wide, maybe a little thicker or thinner, I'm not sure. And you need to have some tape on the inside. And now you can make these radius lines. And there are several of them. Now, the way I spaced this out, I went off the cowl line. Everything is parallel to the cowl line. Went off the drawing, tried to get an aspect ratio so it was correct. Then laid it out with some tape that had been stuck to my shirt about 6 times so it wasn't sticky. And what that ensured, or certainly didn't guarantee it, but gave me the odds that I'm the right distance back now. Now, if you look at how these, I'm going to focus in on it later, how these cowl lines all line up, no two are symmetrical. And these areas where the vents are seem to fan out, so we can really make something really prototypical here just by using ink in the correct way. And I'm going to really make a template for each part, lay it out in tape, and I'll have some of this done before Les gets here. Now, what this will allow me to do is look at one and see if Les likes it, if I like it, if we all like it. And then if we do, we can just measure it and transpose it out to the other nacelle. See how asymmetrical the front of that lays out. So that'll be an interesting thing. And the lines, no lines. These lines are parallel to the cowl line, but the other ones aren't. That's going to make an interesting thing if we can get it even close to prototypical. We already have the gear doors in. Oh, well, this is going to be an interesting part of the project. The thing I found makes this a little bit easier is whenever I do the bottom, which I just did, bring it around and do the top. And then put the tape back on and see that you have it symmetrical And that from all sides, it looks like what would really be is a line where there's a bulkhead in there and all these skins are going to join to it. Now, as I'm trying to lay out these vents, they have a little bit of a funnel or a fluted action. So it's to my advantage here if I can lay these out in tape. Okay, and I have my very small ruler. This little sticky thing just works when you're working by yourself. It's priceless. Now, the flute, when I tried to make it prototypical, I measured the angle, and the angle is wrong because our nacelles are a little bit longer. So we've got a compromise, a little bit of a compromise here anyway, of about 1/8 of an inch. So what I did, I measured this. It looked right when I made the little drawing. Again, it's really nice having Les here, but you got to be able to do this alone because you can't depend, you can't just tell somebody, hey, you got to be here for the next year, I'm inking my plane. Now, what I have to do is I got to ink this side. Now, see, this is where having this sticky back, I call it a sticky back ruler, that's not really what it is, but it's real helpful. In fact, I can see I'm too far away. Because we have so many of these to do to get it prototypical, it's probably going to take, longer than I expect. Everything takes longer than I expect. If you're used to building quickly, don't build a twin. Yeah, I want to connect the dot. And I can pull up my tape. By the way, I store it on my shirt. That makes it even less sticky. Then I can connect the dot from this one. And when we get to do the shading on this, it's going to be very time consuming. This is going to be hours and hours of shading. So I want to have all the lines in first. In fact, we're going to finish inking the wing before we do anything. And when that's done over and over again, I think we're going to have that look of the venting. A little bit of airbrushing in there, that's going to look pretty decent. All we have to do is 18 more of these and we'll be all set. But I like to look at it from the side, from the top, get a look at how that's going to look even before it's shaded. Being able to get round lines on the nacelles and being able to get the vents kind of the way they should be, that's going to be a big part of this.
Mix 105.
Here, laid the edge of the paper against the trailing edge, and then marked where this line intersected the tip, moved it over, marked where the front line intersected the tip, turned the paper over, duplicated those marks, went over to here.
So in essence, you're just making a mirror image of the...
Right. As soon as you flip it over, the wing is symmetrical, so the geometry of every line is going to be the same.
Right now.
So now what we have to do is this is the tip, and we're going to save it for the top.
And so obviously we want to flip it over and do the top, use the pattern over and over again.
Right. So this is...
Okay, so you're going to make a set of patterns.
Right. And this is going to be now for the, where the lines intersect, I'm going to lay a different edge. Well, no, see, I can do this. Good.
Sure.
Good.
And I got my little project while Les was out in the rain before. I got the cowls, some of the basic inking done, haven't done the riveting yet. Just got a rough layout on it, but what's really going to make this pop, I think, is when these exhausts are shaded and all this is three-dimensionalized and the rivets are put in. I think that's going to look pretty good, relatively scale. And Les is going to, with these templates, the thing we're trying to accomplish is to have not only the two wings symmetrical, but then when you flip it over, it's very similar too.
Well,
So it won't have
what I'm
a,
looking to do is reduce all of the layout work.
oh yeah, the layout work is, well, the layout work, what do we have, 5 hours into that outer wing? 4 or 5 hours? I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
Money is no object on this wing, you know, as long as it's your money. Okay. And Elliot's in Maryland today, so we're gonna see him tomorrow. He's doing business.
Comes trailing edge here. And we flip it over.
And no matter what plane you were doing, this is a good way to, I don't know, I guess a good way to do an ink job even on a, you know, a traditional plane. I can't wait to do the shading around those cowls. They really did look, well, you know, the real plane, these things flued out.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, like the Sky Raider. Sky Raider.
Sky Raider, yeah,
you
Sky
almost
Raider is
flew
very
it.
similar to that too. When we do
Flew
the
it out.
Sky Raider, that'll be,
Any radial engine has that same.
yeah, I like that. That's gonna be a sharp, nice little effect. All right, you're gonna make patterns, I'm gonna make lunch. It's a great combination.
Trailing edge, okay, I'm going to get a piece.
Now, one of the nice uses of Les's templating technology here is when we transpose this over, now you've got a template for this already?
No, I'm
Okay.
about to make it.
Okay, so just make that. We also needed to make, and these, on a twin, you always have a problem between the fuselage and the nacelle. You need a short piece with the tape on the back, and in this case, we just used up some 64th plywood, and make sure this edge is polished. Sand it with 1200, whatever. Okay, so what he's doing is taking all our dimensions, and even though this may sound or look or feel like it's time consuming, in the long run, we'll have this wing done in a fraction of the time it took to do the original one, because we had to lay all this out, and each one of the lines was a decision-making process. Right now, there's no decision. Measure it, transpose it. Okay, you all ready there, Chickadooley?
Wait a sec.
Okay.
I just want to see, double check where I reference from. Okay, so it's from the inner line. Interrupted.
Okay,
Outer line.
mark these little dots on there. And then the master of symmetry will take over. Either that or I'll have to do them.
Okay,
Is that
outer
okay?
panel, so they have to go
Outer panel?
1, 2, 3
Okay.
in this field.
Okay, and they're all parallel to the spar.
Pretty much.
They're spar parallel, they're not square.
No, they are not square.
I realized that when I laid out the other side.
However, they come closer to square as you go
As you
back
get to
on-
the middle,
Right.
they go, because they're fanning.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, the templating thing is really a great trick.
Well, I don't know that it's a trick or not.
Now, what would really be cool, I didn't want to take it to this level, but we could have made a full-size drawing of the scale wing and just cut out the panel lines and then fudged them a little bit.
True.
But because this aspect ratio has changed and you're really almost wasting your time, you may as well do it this way. One bar,
Yeah, right.
you just, watch, these may still be wet.
Front.
Okay.
Wait a minute. That's not right either, is it? No. Front. Okay.
Okay. This little guy that has, we don't have the exact scale of a hatch, but this one is very close. We're a third of the way down, a little more than a third, and centered. A little more forward. Okay, I'd say you're in, baby.
That panel's done.
Black and white.
Oh.
Hey, don't pick me.
Okay, look how much he's got done. Les is closing in on, actually, we started doing the things on an nacelle here, but
Did you shorten the nose at all? Or no, you wouldn't have to with the 40.
Jerry Tarnofsky's here. He downloaded his pictures or somehow, I don't know. This is from your website?
No, this is from Stuka Stuntworks.
Oh, okay. You put your pictures out on Stuka?
Right.
And what model is this? Now tell the people what it is.
That's an Aichi M6A1. And if you come down here a few pages, you'll see a...
Oh, you got it all under construction?
Image. It's paint under paint now.
Okay.
And down...
Well, send us some pictures. We could look at them right up. There you go.
Look at that.
That's the plastic model.
That's definitely cool. Semi-scale. I like that. It's a nice color, too. Now, is that the color the real... There's only with 3 of these, right?
Oh, the wheeled ones, only a few were made.
Okay.
And
That's a nice
really
model.
The experimental ones, right? Because
So
the
they were
ones that were-
experimental and trainers.
the tactical ones they made for the submarines had the floats on them.
Yeah.
And it floats, and they had green on them, too.
Yeah.
They were dark green on top.
Very cool. Very cool.
That came off the model
And
box.
it's got the scoop underneath the nose. Like that. That's going to look nice when you model that.
Well, I think that's one of
And
the
that's what-
characteristics you see on the
And
Monty
that's
is
where
the
I
scoop.
That's where I put it. I put the little minor scoop under there to make it look kind of like the airplane.
Fantastic. Now, Jerry, ironically enough, tell me the truth, he's going to ink his first plane.
That's right.
So what do you think he does? He shows up at Wendy's the day we're inking and smearing things all up and making a mess, and he's not impressed whatsoever.
Oh, yes.
If we've done anything for Jerry, we've confused the daylights out of him.
He says, well, I decided not to ink this plane at all. I think I'll just forget about this. And his bird,
Go back home and say, you know, when the Jersey guys work on their models, they're drunk.
Hey, I am a Jersey guy.
you tell Joe Reinhardt that we work sober. We do not drink Bud Light until the first ink line is dry. And the reason we're basically done with, and we don't want to overdo these nacelles especially and stuff to make it look like a, unrealistic. But we have the bottom. Oh, you got the shaded piece too. Put the shaded piece on here. You just drop it in. We don't even have to put the screws in it. Yeah, it kind of coordinates. It's not too busy, and yet it is busy. That snaps in. You got to squeeze the back just a little bit, and it snaps.
Okay.
There you go.
This is excellent. That is.
Yeah, I don't want to touch the back. I thought the same thing. I had this
That's
together.
enough of, because what you're busy here, and then
Yeah.
it starts to thin out,
Yep,
and
yep,
that's
yep.
nice.
Yep, and when the tail is in it with the dihedral, it looks real nice. Okay, let me get the phone. Yeah, I'm happy. This was a good day. Excellent day. I think we had a good day's work, and this is the end of day 2. All this is going to match up pretty well. Once it's shaded, once this, it's really starting to look like the thing I had in my mind a year ago.
Whoa.
Les has 2 dozen pens and not one of them writes. What do you got, new pens over there?
Huh?
You got new pens?
These aren't new. These are the ones that Bill's wife gave me.
Oh.
I'm hoping that this one hasn't been tried yet.
Oh, so you got one that's decent. Well, we got my Renta
Super
pens.
broad one. We got this is a super
Yeah.
broad pen.
Okay. It's a 120? What's the number?
4120.
Oh, you're going to put the red ink in there? We were going to try to do a red ink line where there's a thing on the top of the plane. We don't know if we're going to do it yet. We're going to do it on a test plane out in the garage and see if we like it first.
Well, we
That
don't,
red ink, you know what the problem with that red ink is, Les?
What?
It's not opaque ink.
well, let's see what happens.
It's translucent. But there are lines on here. Well, the worst can happen is we'll mask it off with tape. I can do that. That's not hard to do. So we're really starting to get the flavor and the look of what we hope is the A26. See, most of that ink, even ink I've had in the past, that's transparent ink. That's really transparent. You can't. Ooh, look at the size of that line. Now, one of the choices we might have is to ink over it 6 times.
Well,
And that's purple. That's not even red.
it says it's red.
Yeah, it's purple.
Good luck.
Yeah, we can mix our own
Where's
ink
a,
though. I can make colored ink. That's no problem. You know what you do? You put iodine in it. Just go buy a bottle of iodine and put it in there. You know what works too? That's stamp pad ink. You can put that in with the real ink. I think we have some red stamp pad ink. Anyway, more rocket science. We're going out to dinner with Jerry Tarnofsky and his wife tonight, and this is all the fun I can take for one day. Just doesn't get any better than this. This morning, while I'm waiting for Les to get here, assuming he'll be able to make it for a while, we have the bottom done, flaps are done, bottom of the nacelles is done, and what I want to do is carefully, very carefully and conservatively do some of the staining and some of the shading on the parts. That's one of the things I can do very easily without having to depend on somebody to hold a ruler. And then if he's able to make it this afternoon, we're going to try to do a comparable ink job on the top. Now we want to have all the stains from the line going out and all the stains going back, because as they build a real airplane, the aluminum from the front of the wing goes over the back, they rivet it, and there's usually a little bit of a gap. And that's the theory of this anyway. Whether that's the reality, I don't know. Of course, on a model like Strega, they Bondo it all in, so there is no Now on curved lines like this, it's better to have a little piece of tape down there. Rub it up on your shirt. Now we're not going to do a whole lot of this, but just get a little feel for it. Rub it up on your shirt a few times. And always best, just be prepared to use a lot of tape if you want these lines perfect. On straight lines, you can just hold a little, we've done this already, just hold a piece of sandpaper and hit it. The rules are always, it's always better to have not enough than too much. Always have air pressure that's too low than too high. Second or two, and you want to just pull this up nice and slow. If you use tape that's too sticky, or you get the wet edge here, it's a problem. Or the tape will pull up the ink lines, and we sure don't want to have that. If this tape is a little too sticky, I'm going to have to use a technique of just doing it 3 or 4 times, because I want to pull up all the ink lines here. So a lot of times what I'd like to do is start at one end of the wing. Now I can use the other side of the tape. Kind of mask this panel off. Same piece of tape. And rip it in half. And by doing this I can get corners. Corners give a nice effect too. So you can picture where this is going to be time consuming. And that's why it's good to do it. And always, if you have a chance, shoot this way. Don't shoot at the tape. This will allow us to do some cornering. Maybe a little bit just in the middle, just a tad. And if in doubt, less is better than more. You can always go back and add a little bit, but it's a lot more work repainting the panel or taking it off. Now once that dries, and we give that a second or two, we can basically go back and forth across the whole panel with all of the shading going out, all of the shading going back wherever possible. Now here's a little line up here. And again, I could do this a lot of different ways. I'm basically just going to take my time, start on the tape, work my way out a little bit. Same thing here. Now this may still be wet. So in a case where it's still wet, I can just take a piece of the sandpaper. Sandpaper works good as long as you're not shooting at it. And just the slightest little bit gives it a hint of the weathering. Now we're going to do this, I'll do most of it off camera, but just as a way of filling time until Les gets here. And if we don't have enough, if we finish this, I have the AMA numbers I can do today, and I'm going to spend a lot of time around the cowls, those scoops and rings around the cowl. But this is the effect I'm looking for, just highlight shading. And I thought that was one of the things that really made this a, I don't know, a unique model, I guess, was just that we did corners, edges, and certainly not solid lines, and random, not having, so for instance, not having the whole thing, just having spots randomly put. Same thing on the lines over the fuselage. I think that's what, the randomness is important. It just can't be that everyone, well, when it starts to look too similar, then what I call it is it's bricks, then it just starts to look like bricks in a wall, and that doesn't add a whole lot of interest. I'll start doing this. Now, what's nice about having a big part, I could work on this wing, and while this one's dry in a panel, come out and do this panel, work on that panel. Because what happens if you get too impatient, you run the tape back over paint that's wet, and that can be a, you know, you can pull up some of the paint, and then, in which case you have to just pretty much do it over. And then I'm going to spend, like I said before, a lot of time around these scoops. I want to really, that's an accent or a focal point of the model. I really want that to stand out. I mixed up some brown Rodak dope with a little bit of, try to make it like look exhaust rust stain. It's handy having a B25 here because I can kind of look at it and see how much shading I used on this, and then just certainly don't do more. Less would be better than more. Yeah, little by little we're getting the shading worked out to the level that we want. We're saving up by the cowls for the last thing once we get comfortable with all this, and I'm about one panel of 4 done here. And of course each panel takes a couple hours. It takes time just to figure out how much of this shading is the right amount that'll suit your needs, but I think when you look at a wing that isn't shaded, looks kind of bland, and then you look at one that is shaded, weathered, whatever you want to call it, it really looks like a whole different look. Cases we have, and one of them is the bottom. We need to make the bottom, all the weathering would have normally come to the bottom and made a streak along the bottom if we were trying to be really realistic. We only need to be semi-realistic in the fact that this would be, the bottom would be one of the parts that would be the dirtiest or the most weathered. Let me just get my little gun going here, and this is just to avoid some of the overspray. And what I'm trying to do here is make a, see the way I try to do this anyway. Sometimes for each piece you have to make another template, so it gets really time consuming when you have odd shapes. But I think the overall effect is, it really makes a part look a whole lot more realistic than if you just left it silver. And so now another thing, let's see if we can do one of these on camera. Where we have a curve and we go down, well, that gets a little difficult, but I found one way to make it a little bit easier is by just trying to get the corner first. Put a bend in it. If you get the corner in the right spot first, it seems to help a little bit. And again, each one has to be done individually or it's not going to be as good as it could be. A lot of times what's easier when you have a complex thing like this is just do it with a lot of little pieces. Because this line of course bends. Now there's only one little spot that isn't right and I can just go over it with another piece of tape. It'd be easier than trying to do it 3 or 4 different times with one piece of tape. And it's amazing how little it takes to get a part 3-dimensional. It takes the slightest little amount. You can use the tape over and over, needless to say. And we've got one more. Now we have to go and do every box, every edge, every angle. You can see where we had the parts trying to be where they would be weathered, where that would be sliding back. Okay, we've got all the panel lining done, shaded. For now, anyway. And I'm going to start on trying to work on something for the cowl openings here, try to back mask them and get something that looks like an exhaust stain in the middle of it. Now this is what it looked like, or what the first one looked like. And we don't have the exhaust in yet, but I just want to see that we're going in the right direction. Now just imagine, this is what it would look like. Imagine if you didn't ink it, first of all. Then imagine if you didn't do the staining. I mean, every time you do one more step, it seems like it just gets more and more realistic to me anyway. Anyway, I'm going to try to get this one done if I can before Les gets here. He's on his way already. And then we're going to try the ultimate thing. Get the top of the wing done in one day. We've got to cut these patterns, and that'll be a significant thing. And then we have to, of course, ink it. Because tomorrow, Ed Cotton arrives. So if we can get this inked up, if we don't, not a big deal anyway. It's amazing when you look at this with no ink. Now imagine just building a plane with no ink. Then imagine with ink. And then imagine with staining. Right there is you just have the various things you can do to make it look more realistic. Anyway, let's see if I can get this one done. And if I can't, hey, it's not going to matter anyway. We're not rushing this project. Now this is the first part of laying out one of these vents. It just puts the shading, not the exhaust stain on. Now the idea is to get it to fade up, make it look 3-dimensional.
I know she found a place. Found my coat and grabbed my hat.
what has to happen here. And you always forget one little thing, that's for sure. The rear edge facing edge would get shaded. And one of the things I'm going to be able to do today, because Les canceled out today, I didn't know he would, I'll be able to get the AMA number on the wing, on the flap, because I'm going to be done with the flaps very soon. I want to get this edge. It's a rear facing edge, so I just want to highlight this on the cals. Even though we have some staining on there, this would be just a little more pronounced. And that's the way it looked on the B25, and I thought that worked okay. This is why we're getting so much work done on the body. This is like the 10th day in a row. It's either rained or looked like rain or predicted rain. I'm just getting sick of it. But what's happened is I never would have had this much work done on the Bomber if we had even decent weather. I'd be out flying. Anyway, flying season's here, but the weather's not cooperating. Now the next thing I want to do is flip the flaps over. I want to do the top of the flaps, and then I want to put the AMA number on. I think I can still get that done, even though it's rained 10 days in a row here. And one of the things I do is just go back and forth, because supposing I found a spot I really didn't like, well, what I could do is backmask it and just airbrush in a little silver. You can always go back and undo it. This might be a problem up here, but you never have to, you know, stick with what you want, what you don't want. I mean, you can modify it, you can change it, and when it's all done, then we'll put the first coat of clear on, and then look around for any spots we still want to touch up. Now it's very convenient that we can take the flaps right off and do this. Hey, get away from those flaps. Being able to take the flaps off the plane in terms of doing the inking and everything is really, really convenient. If we had the hinges already glued in, or pretend this was a one-piece plane and it was already together, boy, we'd really be in some trouble. It would be a lot more work. To figure out is what else I can do while I have this time window, and while it's raining. I want to get the AMA number on, I want to get the flaps finished, and maybe even be able to start the inking on the nacelles. Always trying to maximize or be efficient with the use of the time. Yeah, I guess making those templates up for the nacelles, those edges of the nacelles, that's going to be a key part of this too. Now this is what we use to lay the paper pattern down, and you can see we've already used this pattern. No reason we can't use it again. What I'm going to have to do is cut out the little pieces and glue them in place. If you've never used rubber cement before, this is the big deal to it. It's really not a big deal. Relatively easy to use. Let's just get an idea where we're going to line it up. Just put plenty of it on, that's all you have to do. Let it sit for a minute. While that rubber cement is drying up a little bit, I need to cut these little pieces out. But they'll be the parts that float inside the number. And this was one of the things John Pathia made up for me, I don't know, a year ago, 2 years ago, we made the B25. As part of this is getting the alignment. And so I'm going to just carefully figure that that's it. Now, all of these have to get pressed down while the cement is wet. And my two little floating parts, these have to go in place. And see, nothing is permanent until that glue dries, and it takes about 5 minutes to dry. This is a particularly good method if you like to do stars or little tiny designs that can, for all purposes, make you crazy when you go to mask and tape this off. What a great time for a phone call. Is that unbelievable? Unbelievable. Now let me get the phone while this is floating around here. Now once this starts to dry, you can take your bare finger, press down the edge, and you'll see what happens to the rubber cement. It kind of balls up in the middle, and you can wipe it off one little bit at a time. And this is what it looks like chewing gum or something when you're done. But around the floaters, you've got to go real careful to make sure you don't move the floaters. And just pick up the extra rubber cement where you're done. Just let it go little by little by little. It goes very quickly. The whole thing only takes about 5 minutes to finish, and it'll be ready to airbrush. It's finally back from the great jaunt. Okay, so I'm getting the last of the rubber cement out of here. Try to get all the little dusties and make sure the floaters are in the correct place. And now it's a big help. It's a tremendous help, in fact, if you can get it. I can back this camera up a little bit so you can see what I'm saying. What happens if you shoot this way? The top edges tend to be fuzzy. If you shoot that way, but if you can get it 90 degrees to the gun, well, let's see if we're even close here. And spray it dry. Don't spray it wet. Don't make a puddle. Do just what I'm doing. Do it in 3 or 4 or 5 coats even, especially if it's a lighter color. There, let one dry. And if this doesn't come out with nice edges, needless to say, we can ink around it. We can do a lot of things. I'll give this a couple of minutes to dry, put another light dry coat on. Don't want a wet coat. The typical airbrush coat. We'll let that dry up nice and dry, and we'll give it a second coat. Now we have the 3 coats, and I'm going to let this dry for a while since we're not doing anything else. It's always a good idea with dope to let it dry. You get a nicer edge. The rubber cement will be able to pull up anytime. Just let it sit there, and that'll take care of that. I have a new secretary. Elliot, you got to wear a shorter skirt, Elliot, if you want to work for me. Oh, man. Well, we're going to let this dry, and we have some other related work to do in the shop, but we have gotten a nice jump on this, that's for sure. And the lettering looks good, but if we do, we can get a pen and touch up the outside or whatever, but that's all we got. We got Ed Cotton coming tomorrow, Elliot here now, so we should just count our blessings that we got this much done. I think this is quite an accomplishment considering the weather out there. If you only knew what weather we're going through this year. This year is like the barn burner of bad weather. Unbelievable. This thing of the day was I just airbrushed in some of the beginning of what will be the exhaust stains just to get a feel for how that's going to look when it's all put together. We'll probably darken them up. It's like I said, it's always easier to make them darker than lighter, and I want that coat to dry overnight first anyway. I did it with Brodak, one of his brown colors, and a little bit of black after that. But we can add to that custom mix or color if we have to. But I really do want to see what that's going to look like when this is all put together. Whether that's going to look like I should have some more or I should have less, or... Nope. That's the exciting part of this, is it's like a piece of artwork that you go back and forth, changing the color, change things, until it's the way you want it. Anybody who's never met Ed Cotton from Toronto, professional architectural modeler, he has made me a coal loader. How long did it take to make this? We've been working on it. You've been working on it for 6 months.
Yeah, actually, altogether, if I sat down and did it like on an 8-hour-a-day basis, probably about 3 weeks of 8-hour days. So that's basically what it took. I took my wife was working a lot through Christmas and I wasn't. So this was when most of the so this is when the loader got.
So this is the loader. Now I've never seen it. He purposely never even sent me a picture of it.
Well,
So as he watches me build the, look at, here goes the bird. As he watches me build the A26, he knows, he's seen my cards, but I haven't seen his.
You betcha.
So we've invited a bunch of people. Mike Costello's here for the unveiling. Karen's here.
Hello, everyone.
Elliot Scott is here. Mike, the other co-bomber pilot.
Can I have this as a flight box when it's
Give me your...
Without any shadow of a doubt, I'm not taking it back to Toronto.
You want to buy it, Mike? I'll trade you for renting on the Berkshire.
Ultimate capitalist.
Oh, man. Make a buck on everything here.
This was interesting.
Okay, let's...
You want to see it?
Yeah, I do.
Check it out. All right. Now.
Where's Elliot? Did he disappear?
He's up there.
Oh, he's doing business, as always. Okay.
Okay, let's see.
I don't know if you're going to have the height to pour that.
Oh, man, look at this already. Oh, the bird flew by. Look at this, Mike.
Just cleared it.
How is that going to look on the new layout?
Our layout.
Our layout. Your engines, my trains. Oh, Ed, that is fabulous. Karen, look at this.
Ed, you got to teach us how to do this.
Oh,
Well, no, he's got a video. And by the way, anybody watching this video would like a copy of Ed's how to make a build. He made a video building this building. So we're gonna, and they're not for sale. We just give you one because we love you.
This isn't as good a video as yours, Wendy. Let me
Oh,
say this
my
about
God.
the video.
Look at this.
Half the time the camera is focusing on thin air and I'm over here trying to figure out how to get into them.
How much nudity is on it? That's what I want to know. Look at the detail,
Get
Karen.
this guy out.
Wait. Go slow. Let Mike move the box. Mike, why don't you just move the box?
Okay. That's great. Thanks, Mike.
Now, for anybody who doesn't know, this is a thing that a steam engine would basically go under. Coal would be stored above. The coal would come down this chute into the train. You could also drive another train under here. I see we got space for the train.
Actually, it's
Oh, man.
not only a coaling tower, it's also a sand tower.
Look at the plate and the nut.
Let's see if we can get this on the macro lens. Yeah, he said he got they're quarter scale nuts.
Did you build it from a plan, or?
Yeah, actually, I went onto the internet
Oh,
and I
man,
keyed
that
in
wild.
coaling tower, and gee, there's a lot of stuff on there.
And of course, this is
Now, I
for
wasn't
water.
sure what Windy would want in the way of a wood structure or a concrete structure, but wood structures are just so much more interesting.
This is perfect.
So I thought, so I made this up out of strips of stock, like it's just individual strips, one on top of the other. It's basically started out by building the shell out of acrylic. This is plexiglass, and doing all the window framing and everything on that glass. And
So
then
underneath this is a frame of acrylic.
it's actually all acrylic. It's 1/8-inch acrylic.
Okay, that then becomes the windows.
Yes, and then on top of each of the pieces that are cut out of acrylic,
Look at the
And then-
detail on the wood. Wow.
there you get.
Did you scribe that wood up yourself?
No, it's actually individual boards.
Yeah. Well, what I meant to say was, within each individual
Yes.
board, you scribe that wood.
Yes, it's a very simple. It's a very simple method of.
Is that fabulous? I mean, that's something I'll have. That's a treasure. Now, what I got to do, Ed, and what we're going to have to do tomorrow, especially if Les is,
I'm delighted you like it. I really am.
we're gonna move some things around on the layout, so this is in a very dominant place.
Well, that's great.
Dominant is what I have. This couldn't be off in the background somewhere.
He's so good, maybe we should let him build our family room.
No, I can only build it this big.
Oh, we're in
I don't
trouble,
do-
we're in trouble.
I don't do billboard.
Southbridge Diet isn't gonna accept
That's
that.
small stuff.
You wanna know something wild, Mike? As I'm looking at this, the top window, I can look through it, look out the other window, and see the train going through on the TV. Look at that, right through. That is great, because it's all plexiglass.
That's cool.
Dad, you've outdone me. I'm telling you, I'm bombered out.
No, man.
Unbelievable.
This is what I don't build wood structures, but I do
Unbelievable.
structures for a living.
So what do you think, Mike?
Did you spray this with that concrete?
I wanna go through the email.
Did you just take a brush?
Spencer Pache, the type,
The H?
the H, yeah.
That's one of the ones I like a lot.
Yeah,
too.
the good thing about them, I use them in my business all the time, and the good thing about them I find is you can mistreat them severely and they keep, doing what we do in the business and doing it under great pressure to get deadlines and that. We aren't exactly the most meticulous in cleaning them out. We've got 10 or 15 bottles of paint and we're plugging one in and plugging the other in and painting and whatever.
The roof is incredible, how realistic that rusty, whatever material that is.
That's actually plastic.
Is it
but
flow quill? Is that
It's two colors of flow quill. And what you
Wow.
do is you spray the rust color first and you let it dry a week.
Okay.
And then you spray grimy black on it. And then the minute that you've put grimy black on it, you take the thinners, which they call diasol, on a brush, and you brush the diasol on the black. It's only just there, so it's real fresh. And then you take your airbrush with no paint in it, but just some air, and you blow it. And it
Wow.
all moves around.
Oh,
And
man.
it's
So that's,
amazing how that works. That's
that-
a real nice trick.
I have the rails on my model railroad with flow quill paint,
With local roof,
age, yeah, rust.
Rust, right.
Yeah, that's the same rust, isn't it?
Yeah.
Similar, if it isn't. The details are unbelievable. The little bolts,
Yeah, the bolts.
the little pulleys. Arnie is gonna flip out. Arnie is gonna be on me like a wet blanket.
Lionel doesn't make this.
No. This is the Lionel. This is not coming from
I
Lionel.
actually brought a...
Dick Maddox doesn't make this.
I actually brought it from the,
Oh, yeah.
and I thought these are very excellent for
That'd be good to like,
pallets, for skids on your.
where the factory is.
Yeah,
We could use those for
absolutely.
skids, yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, modeling is modeling.
Absolutely.
See, even a piece of scrap like
Now,
this.
that's what I did to start off with to proof the method.
Oh, that's the plexiglass.
Yes, that's plexi.
But a piece of this laying by the side of a building is prototypical,
Yeah.
you know?
See the plexi?
That nice? Well, he's got the, I can't wait to watch the video. Neither can
Well,
Wes.
now-
Stick this together with that liquid cement.
It's two-way tape. It's a permanent two-way tape.
Oh.
We use two-way tape in our business a lot because it's very clean. And if you buy high-quality two-way tape, it's like $32 a roll. But it sticks, and after it's been on for about a week, you need a pry bar to get it off. It's amazing.
I wonder if you could do a foam wing with that.
The two-way tape?
Yeah, well, we better weigh a bunch of it.
Yeah, I don't think it's very
It's
light.
heavy?
Yeah. It's not very thick. I've got...
Now, what Ed is teaching us is some styrene techniques. Do another one.
All right, wait a minute, I gotta do the other side.
Okay. This is just sheet styrene. You can buy in any plastic store. And this little hypodermic kind of deal. As far as they didn't give you some of that nonsense at the border, like
Oh, I'll tell you, Wendy, when
they give you a raft.
They didn't open the toolbox. All they
thing.
did was they kept asking me over and over again, so how come you're taking tools with you if the guy that you're seeing is working on his railroad at his house? Hasn't he got tools? I said, yeah, he's got tools, but he may not have...
That's instantly bonded.
Oh, that's almost like plastic cement. In fact,
Yeah, it is, except
It's better.
what it does, this plastic cement that you're familiar with and...
yeah, the model kit stuff.
It sticks styrene, but it doesn't stick acrylic. This is
This
predominantly
stuff
designed...
is gangbusters.
Yeah.
And what's the name of this
Hey, you know
stuff?
what? I don't think I'd try to take those back across the border. I think you better leave
I'd
them.
better leave all of them with you guys.
I agree. You know that Berkshire you bought? You better leave it with me. Make sure it doesn't rust over in your cellar.
This here,
Ed, we're gonna run his Berkshire tomorrow. I'm gonna talk him into driving down and picking it up tonight.
great.
Be a man. Call that guy up, Mike. Tell him we'll all drive down and get
Yeah,
it.
the money's in the mails.
Oh, yeah. Oh, this is an Ostello story if I ever heard
I
one.
put the money in the mail this morning.
Oh, cash?
Oh, a money order.
Oh,
So it's gotta make its way to him. Plus I think I misread the eBay listing. It's not a DCS.
I bought you another
It's
gift.
Protosound 2, but not DCS.
This is a blade for your saw.
Oh, okay.
This is when we set your saw up,
Well, we'll play with the saw.
because this is...
You'll be impressed with what a quality saw I have.
I'm looking forward to it.
You can cut 2x4s with it.
Check
Well-
this out.
You can
Yeah.
cut 2x4s with mine, but you can also cut real nice fine stuff.
This is just like cutting a piece of glass. You just score it.
So you want to, this is like, you want to make a wing rib. Let's say you have a pattern for a wing
Dial
rib.
that up.
Yeah.
Contact cement the pattern onto the styrene.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then just
Okay.
pop it off.
Or if you're making an I-beam, or you want to make I-beam ribs by the gazillion.
Yeah,
Yeah, I happen
use
to
that.
want to do that. So
Will you?
just put my pattern on here.
Yeah, make one pattern and you're done. Wow. Now, how is this stuff as far as, could you make like a letter, a template,
Anything you wanted.
wow.
Yeah.
We're gonna find things, don't worry
Oh,
about
I
it.
tell you,
I knew
you
you
can
might.
make templates in seconds with this because you just score it.
Yeah,
and
it
then you
isn't
just
like
pop it
60-foot
apart.
plywood where you go back and then you
back
gotta
and
sand
forth
it.
and back and forth.
I watched
sand
you
it.
do
Now that we're done inking a plane, now he comes up with this technology.
I told you
Who-
about this ages
who-
ago.
Who authorized this sale?
When I saw you doing that, you're inking your B25 ink line.
You were thinking, I'll come the
sent me
day
the
he's
video.
finished.
No,
Wes is gonna chop you up tomorrow.
that's all right. I'm a big guy. I can deal with it. I emailed you and I said, have you ever heard of styrene for templates or for rulers or for anything like
Right,
that?
right.
'Cause that's all we use. And it's so easy.
Well, shame on you for not helping us
Yeah,
earlier.
Well, we gotta go
Well, you
to
gotta pay a
the...
few dues, you know? I didn't know about this stuff in
What do you think, Mike? Should we let him off the hook?
I think we have to let him off the hook. All this good advice doesn't come cheap, you know.
You bet. Where do we get the bill for pizza tonight?
Yeah.
So, we gotta go to the styrene store and buy a 4x8 sheet and split it up.
Yeah, I mean, Cadillac Plastics.
Cadillac Plastics, I think, is in Patterson, right on Market Street or
While
something.
you're there, buy a
What-
quart.
how thick is this?
I think this might be 30.
Well, we'll get him
30
to
or
give
40.
us the specs of what we need.
What you need is a quart of resin bond or methylene chloride.
Going through a bunch of pictures of Ed Cotton's ship model collection, and these are things he's made. Now, he's telling us some different modeling techniques that I'm sure between Les and myself and Elliot and everybody, we're gonna figure some way of using this to make cockpit details or something. But what amazed me was he made his own cannons for, how big is this model altogether?
The model is about 30 inches long altogether, so it's about this big.
Okay, and how big are the cannons?
Cannon's about that big.
About that big?
Yeah.
And he has his own machine for making scale rope. Now that's
Kind of wacko.
I gotta tell you, I don't have a scale rope machine. Where did that come from?
All these block and tackles, they all have pulleys in them.
Yeah, I've noticed.
They're pretty tiny.
This gives you some idea of what kind of technology you're dealing with. Look at the anchor.
Yeah, the anchor is brass, and again, it's a method that was used a lot by the old model makers that used to do ship models at the time that the...
And they leave
were-
below the waterline unflanked so you
Yeah.
can see the substructure.
Yeah.
And it's all made with little pieces.
Yeah.
It's
all the-
amazing.
All the planks are all
The
separate.
cannons, this shot here, the cannons are unbelievable. Maybe we could figure a way of putting cannons in the B-25. Oh, the masthead, is this the front?
That's the bow, the
Jeez.
figurehead. That's very much bigger than scale because that crown is only about that big.
I don't know. I made a model of the Sea Witch one time, you know,
Yeah.
that big, you know what the,
Sure.
it's a kit. And it must have taken me 5 years to do the rigging.
Yeah.
And my mother'd come home and say, "What are you doing with all my string?" And I had rigging and rigging on rigging.
Yeah.
But I did all the little pulleys with the little drill holes, and
I tell you what.
Oh,
it's
man.
a lot of work once you get.
I
into
wish I
it.
still had it too. I would have saved that. But it deteriorated quickly, you know.
You need to put them in a case. You need to
Yeah,
put a
the
cover
dust
on.
and dirt, and you couldn't
Yeah.
clean it
You
after a
can't
while.
you can't clean rig models at all, right, Chicky?
Get the hell out of here. What are you doing? You biting everybody tonight? Yeah, I know. Now you're my buddy. You want to go for a ride in Ed Cotton's boat, huh? Now that you know he's a boat owner, you're his good friend, huh? Yeah, when you thought he was poor, you didn't like him at all.
This is the way that
Yeah, Tom Morris has
Tom
a
Morris has
similar
got this
system.
Lincoln log system or
Yeah.
something that he
Yeah, this
talks
is the
about.
cotton log system.
Yeah, actually,
Cotton comes to Harlem or something. Yeah, I don't know what this
it
is.
occurred to me as I was doing the, because this is my flat table, as I mentioned, and that
Oh, okay.
that you can set up very, very flat. And
And the Aeropoxy light worked well?
the
Made a nice fillet?
The Aeropoxy light is wonderful.
All right.
Absolutely wonderful. I was used to using epoxy light, which I quite like, except it's brutal to sand.
Oh, yeah. It
Or-
turns into chewing gum or iron.
Yeah.
Nothing in
Yeah,
between.
or both.
Yeah, or both, yeah.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
No, well, that's why we did the Aeropoxy light, and that's been quality. It's worked well.
That's amazingly good stuff, Wendy.
This
Yeah.
is, well, it's aircraft quality. It's not hobbyist quality.
Yeah.
It's real aircraft. That's a great way. Doing a block wing thing.
It seems to work okay. I just
Yeah.
cut a pile of slots in some just some Medite or MDF blocks of.
Well, Tom uses ordinary pine, I think.
Does he?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be within a millionth of an inch or anything.
But Medite's like that's
Yeah.
just
You could laser cut them on your laser cutter even.
yeah.
Ed and I spent the whole morning maneuvering things around here so that we could have his coal loader on the layout. Ed's figuring out all the DCS commands. And we have a new focal point of our layout. Ed Cotton's coal loader. Not yet? You can't do any, you're just like flying a radio control plane. No difference.
No ailerons.
No ailerons, right. I really like the way this worked out. This is really fabulous. So before we go back and work on a bomber, Ed's having us run the train session here. That's the story of the amazing Ed Cotton coal loader. Back to working on a bomber. So here, while Ed's out watching a video of Mike Kajeski building a table, these are going to be our headers. They're from Scott Dinger. I need to open this end up with a Dremel tool, get a little bit of a funnel flow going on in there. I got one half polished, not fully polished yet. But polishing them is, well, relatively simple operation. They're just soft aluminum is all they are. Polish up beautifully. We're going to have to put pressure fittings in here. And again, I'm going to have to surface this side and then the last thing, Dremel tool this out, make a little flute out of that. These are going to be beautiful little pieces of jewelry when we're done. Very nice. Very nice. Thank you, Scott Dinger. Header's polished up beautifully, and Ed is out working on a saw. He's going to try to give me some saw techniques. He's brought a new blade. Look at him out there, just chopping firewood. That's a tough workforce out here. Chickie's supervising us. We're trying to drain and clean some of the water out of the pond. At the same time, Ed is out here working in, well, I guess we're going to see some plexiglass tricks. He bought us a new blade. See a blade that was on here, and this blade has really been, we've cut 1,000 parts with this. How many parts do you think went through this saw blade? A lot, huh?
That one?
That's some worn out piece of junk blade.
Yeah, seen better days. That's a new
Now,
one.
we went out train shopping this afternoon, and what Ed did, he saw these glass cases. What are they, plexiglass cases?
Yeah, they are.
This guy's getting $200 for them. They look like we could make 3 a minute here.
Oh yeah, they said this would be no trouble at all. You need a bender, but the bender would cost you about maybe $25 to make. It's just
Oh, yeah.
chrome wire with a
Yep. Now, you're making a slider that's going in a
I'm
saw.
making a cross slide for you, but for me to do that, I got to make this fit into this slot.
Okay.
Exactly.
And what is this, 1/8" plexiglass?
Well, this is now 316 and I didn't bring any 316 with me, so I laminated a piece of 8 and a piece of 16.
So it's going to be a slider.
Yeah,
What is that?
It's going to be, this is going to slide in this, and what's going to happen is, I'm going to take this.
You're not going to be like that Yankee tool guy where he just shows you the final product. You never see how he sets the
I'm going to show you how to do
saw.
all of it, but if you need a
Oh, we just take the $1 million saw and the $1 million router bit. And look at that, we have a perfect
I'm going to tell you
part.
about the Yankee tool shop guy.
Forget the Yankee tool. He's not a windy.
He's not.
No, he doesn't tell you anything.
But here's a guy, and this is something
He's just flaunting his money.
I can't believe this guy.
Norm Abrams.
He's using all this quality wood. He's got this $1 million machine shop.
Right, to make a $30 piece of furniture.
Well, then he's making all the furniture out of solid wood, and then he uses a pneumatic tacking hammer to tack through moldings that you could glue on, and you don't have any nails. And he fills them with putty,
Oh,
and then the putty is like a.
he's worse than Windy. How can that be? I thought I was the king.
No. He ain't
Look at
nothing
this.
like Windy.
Look at this.
I'm just scraping it till it fits.
Okay, I like the way you...
Nice now.
See, I like your way of working. Never bother buying the right tool. Just keep scraping away at something till it
With the
fits. I
X-Acto knife.
love that.
Well, I didn't have a scraper, so I'm using X-Acto knife, which works just as fine.
Hey, Scott's header's polished up beautifully. That little Jules, boy.
It's a nice thing.
Oh, man, that guy knows his stuff. Very
Just
nice.
A little bit. We may have to scrape the slot a little bit because there may be some action. There might be some CA in it or something.
Now, Ed doesn't know it, but we're going to see if he knows how to install a door tomorrow. Our second set of doors finally came in, and we hope if Mike finds out these are the wrong size, he's going to go through the roof. My tenants are going out the window.
I ain't Abrams. I can't do it. I don't know how to do that.
If Norm Abrams, he wouldn't show you how to install them.
He just.
Oh, we just take our $1 million door installer and bingo.
I saw him with
That phony.
that other guy. What the heck's his name? The guy that pretends he knows all about.
Oh, the Sears Roebuck guy, yeah.
So what's his name?
Oh, I can't think. Bob Vila.
Bob Vila.
Oh, yeah, what a crook.
What a What a combination.
Oh my
Here's-
God.
Here's these guys
These-
putting some kitchen cabinets in. They got a screw gun, and they're running screws into the thing, and before they turn off the video camera, you watch Abrahams run a screw in, and the screwdriver jumps out of the screw and gouges a big hole in the wood right beside
Yeah,
it.
and it's
Then they
$40
shut
a
it off
foot.
right away.
$40 a foot wood. Let me tell you, Mike Kajeski never slips off the screw. You'll be impressed tomorrow. We install those doors, and then we're going flying. We already have the car loaded. We're just waiting for him to saw something up here so I can be impressed. Chicky's even waiting to be
It's gonna take
impressed.
a little while to saw something because now I gotta glue something, and after that's dry,
Chicky isn't
then
even
I'll saw
impressed.
something.
Norm Abrams can't even make a bird cage. Right, Chicky? All right, so when you're done here, we're working on cleaning up the pond here.
And then I'll
Little by little, it's coming
wait
together.
for a little bit, and I'm gonna show you what I'm doing.
There's a square downstairs.
I'm gonna run down.
It's actually making a tool that will be able to run into the saw blade and be able to adjust the deads. I didn't know he was on drugs. Look at this. He's on some kind of drugs he's not telling me. I buy him a bologna sandwich for lunch, and he's doing drugs. Unbelievable. You never know who you hire in this day and age. The man, on his resume, he didn't say, "I'm a heroin addict. Help me. Send me for counseling." But this is the one that came with the saw. This is,
That's normal with the
yeah,
Yeah.
but see, here's the problem with this. Look at this.
yeah.
You can move
But,
it.
but at rest, like what you really want it to do is to lock up at 90 degrees or parallel, very parallel to the blade by itself, which means to say that we need to adjust these guys. We need to turn it a bit.
But I don't even use that thing. When you get,
but I'm just about to.
oh, okay.
I'm gonna make the back plate for this thing now.
Okay.
So I want to see whether I can adjust it a bit because you see the fence.
See, I never do this.
It's a real useful object
Yeah.
because what I can make you, and which I will make you when I get back to Toronto, is a set of parallels. Now what the parallels do, they're like a machinist parallel. It's two pieces of plexi with a very, very short, very shallow angle, and they slide on each other.
Okay.
So, and then this surface is parallel to this. So as you move the angle back and forth,
Right.
you are adjusting this dimension
I
very
got
slightly.
you. I got you.
So you set this so that the parallels are sort of where you want it to be.
Right.
You take a trial cut, and then you adjust the parallel till you get it exactly
You
like
fine tune
want.
them. Yeah. You
No
do a
sweat.
like a fine tuning on it.
Exactly. Very
Beautiful.
simple to do that.
Beautiful.
So this looks like now, but for that to work, this has got to be sort of parallel to this. And this is pretty close now.
I like the tool selection.
Well, it,
Always use the right tool. What did you call it? A Norwegian pliers or something?
this is
A Norwegian hammer is a screwdriver.
a Newfoundland.
Newfoundland hammer.
Newfoundland hammer is a screwdriver.
Gee.
A Newfoundland chisel.
I have customers in Newfoundland.
Well, don't show them this video.
I'll have to skip them one on the subscriber list. Nobody in Newfoundland is ever going to see
Yeah.
this video.
Don't
Goodbye.
know who it is that said
Goodbye.
this. Okay, now
Eric the Stunt.
Okay, well, let's see what happens. Now that's pretty good.
We're using a real great extension cord
Quality
that's plugged in.
extension.
No fault. It's not plugged into a ground fault either.
And it's not going to
And
be
when he
my
turns
fault.
it on, the pump stop. Oh, the pump
Yeah,
stop.
all the lights in Rutherford
Gee.
Tip.
Wow. This man lives on the edge.
Tell you what,
Boy, that blade really cut. I am impressed.
live high and sleep in the street.
Man alive. I can trim Chicky's toenails with that blade. Holy crow. Unbelievable. Boy, you never know what you're going to see on a windy video. Could happen to you. Look at he just jumps on that.
Okay,
Let me see how that cut is.
That's pretty slick.
Whoa, whoa. That is that's better than that guy with the $200 engine shed thing had. That meatball probably never sharpens his saw. You know, they sell those at $200 at the train shows too.
Well, maybe we can sell
It's unbelievable. I mean, you could
sell this for $150.
We should drive down the road. No, you know what you do with this blade? You drive down the
Tell
road.
you what you do with
When it on Route 80 is fast as you can go, the first person you see on a cell phone, especially if it's a woman,
That's right.
you lop it off like James Bond.
It's a
Try
Newfoundland frisbee.
a Newfoundland frisbee, right? You know, I am bored to tears that you're here. We're not having a single laugh all day. Boring.
Yeah.
Who
We
said
haven't
people?
even started drinking yet.
Who said people? Boy, those guys in the bar today. We stopped at the
Oh,
bar
man.
where the
They looked
Sopranos.
like they were having a ball, those guys.
Ooh. They didn't know they weren't in the
Yeah.
topless bar, did they?
What
They were seeing girls that weren't there. Called Resin
But
Bond.
it's called Resin Bond, and they spell it REZNBOND,
Okay.
which is, that's the brand name.
But
And
that's how
what-
you, and you're doing it with with the fuel injection needle there?
Yeah, I'm doing it with
How
just
many
a-
times you poke yourself with that needle?
I can tell you a story about that.
Go
When I
ahead,
first started the business years and years ago, we used to work all night as a matter of course. We'd finish a job, the only way we were ever going to finish it was to work all night, the last night. We never, always underestimated our time, always figured we'd get it done quicker than we would, and we'd be always in a hell of a panic at the end. So we're finishing this job for CP Hotels in Nova Scotia or somewhere like that. I think it was Nova Scotia. And we're finishing this job, and my workbench looked like a bomb went off. Actually, it looked like somebody threw a grenade in
Like
the shop.
Beirut, huh?
Shut the door, and the bomb went off, right?
A Newfoundland house clean party.
Exactly.
What do you guys got against Newfoundland?
I got nothing against Newfoundland. It's just the fact that traditionally Newfoundlanders or Newfies
Newfies. Oh
are
boy, I can't wait. I
considered
can't-
to be
Leave.
less intelligent than the rest of the
Wow.
common masses, which is stupid because
In America, we call that being a bigot. A Canadian bigot.
I'm
Can you
not a
imagine?
bigot. I'm not more of a bigot than you are.
Oh, that's a lot. You got a long way to go.
So anyway, now I've glued this on,
Okay.
and I'm just going to take a cut on this because I want to see whether how square it ends up being.
Notice he uses the safety guide, the Norm Abrams safety guide.
What?
They
Over
got-
the blade?
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
they got the things, so many safety guides, you couldn't drive a hippopotamus into the saw blade.
No, that's pretty nice. In fact,
That dead 90?
yeah. That's awfully.
I want all my railroad buildings to be dead 90. All my incline templates are gonna be done this way.
Now,
Les is
remember
gonna love this.
slotting stuff I was showing you when
Yes.
you multiple slots?
Yes, multi-slots.
Okay, well, the way you do that, and I did a little thing, what, on my little video that I made for you, but what, in a large version of it,
Which is now available on
on
DVD.
DVD for $15.
In IMAX form.
You take a couple of strips of stock and you glue them to a solid piece,
Okay,
okay? Two pieces that are parallel to each other.
right.
Okay. Now you raise your saw blade up just the thickness of the wood. Pretend this is a piece of basket
Right,
or
right.
whatever it is, and you're just perfing this stock. Okay. Now this is an exactly 60 thou thick blade, so you get a little piece of 60 thou plexi or styrene strip, and you glue it however far from the edge of this blade you want that slot to be.
As a dead stop.
As a dead, well, it's a step and repeat stop because
Okay.
you
just go to the next
slot
one and to
this,
the next one?
Move it over, put it
Okay.
on, slot.
We
You're
call that a
gonna get-
leapfrog dead stop,
Oh,
where
do
you
you?
just go chung, 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 like on a
Okay.
punch press, where you're putting holes equally spaced.
Well, that works perfect, and on your coal loader, on all
Right.
of those decks that go around the building,
Hmm.
they're all done like that. The only thing is instead of using a 60 thou blade, I'm using a 30 thou wide thinner blade, and I'm using a 30 thou piece of styrene as the stop. So
Okay.
that way I'm step and repeat.
Right,
I get
right.
a pile of perfectly equally distant spaced planks
Hmm.
that are glued to these stringers already, so I don't have to glue a whole pile of pieces on.
Right.
I've just got all of those pieces have all of a sudden appeared because I've sawed this solid
Yeah.
into pieces.
You put an aluminum sheeting on, aluminum siding on,
Yeah, exactly.
plexiglass. I don't know how to describe it.
That's,
To tell I don't know
What
what
you-
I'm doing.
what you-
But I love the coal loader.
well, that's the most important thing.
You
Now,
bet.
for this, you can saw a slot with this, no problem. Anything you want to do. the pieces that you're gonna cut, we're gonna make a little stop now. Well, we won't make it now because it's dinner time, but
Yeah, we gotta do dinner. Karen's,
we're gonna stick a threaded screw in here and get a wing nut and put on it.
right.
And it's gonna have a little C-shaped or L-shaped clamp. And you just tighten that down. We're gonna put a piece of 16. I mean, we cut these up all the time over at our shop. End up just to using a piece of scrap. You could use this as your cross slide piece.
Right.
Clamp down on that, move that over.
This is a nice way to do it. I really like the way
Well,
this works.
It's very clean, and the beautiful part about it, there's two things about this that is important. First of all, it's very easy to set using your vernier dimension between the saw and the
Right,
clamp.
right.
But second of all, you're not trying to feed tiny little pieces into a
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay, so by pushing on the area where, and I'm going to glue an extra little piece here so it's comfortable for your hand, you're pushing in a straight line ahead, right on this slider. So this is going here. It's
You're
not
not
binding the
cocking
blade.
it off to one
Absolutely,
side or the
it's
other.
not binding the blade,
Yeah,
nothing
yeah.
like that. And your hands are out of the way, and it ain't any problem. All you need to do, if the pieces you're cutting are really tiny, get your X-Acto and hold them down.
Right,
Run it
right.
into the saw. That's a no-no.
No, I would never
Or
do
you
that.
can use the end of a pencil.
Plexiglass. Plexiglass sneezing.
Exactly.
Newfoundland sneezing.
God, you're worse than me.
We gotta eat. Karen's gonna give us a whooping
So this
where it
work-
hurts too.
This is gonna work all right.
Okay, yeah, that's
We gotta
great.
clean that
A couple of weeks ago, we were supposed to do these doors, and today's the lucky day. This is one of my rental properties, and Mike and I had to break into the place during an ice storm. So, I believe if a guy comes all the way from Toronto to visit you, makes you a nice model, you should make him work for his cup of tea in the morning. How much you paying this guy, Mike?
Not much.
Ed, you still in there? Put your face in the door.
I'm here for the duration.
Aren't you glad you didn't pay for that last dinner?
Yeah, fantastic. Way better than Toronto.
Oh yeah, more fun living with Wendy here. Wow. We're gonna have new doors today. So once all this construction work is done, we're gonna go up the flying field for a little while. But first, we're gonna make Ed Cotton work for his daily bread here. We got 2 of these doors to replace. Cotton was here. He didn't know it, but I was gonna take him for a ride in my local street rod. He likes this, huh? I bet you didn't know I had a street rod. I bet I didn't know I had one either. Look at this. We're actually going to get coffee for Mike while he finishes the job. Look at this street rod. Wow. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, it sure is. What is this? Come on, Ed. You work for me all morning. I treat you like a dog, and I buy you a bologna sandwich for lunch. How bad is that?
Sweep jersey.
Then we make them sweep the flying field. Oh, hey, Brian, you got your plane out there still. You gonna leave it out there?
For a rep.
We're gonna fly. We gotta eat and we're gonna fly. A monumental moment. Adjust it to suit your needs, Ed.
All right for you.
Well, adjust away. We can always put it back, no problem.
440 on those? It is.
Yeah, 440, yeah. What we do is you mark the cable with a black thing so you can put it back for the next guy. Brian will do it. Brian will show you. Ed's going to get his first flight in beautiful New Jersey air, and it's puffing and blowing away as we have our lunch.
Gee, maybe I should make a bunch of polo. Although I might get more for the boxing.
Ed Cotton taking his first flight in beautiful Jersey air. The stance that won him 6 national combat championships. Gonna send a copy of this to Stubblefield just to make him jealous. You know, Jacobone's got better body movement than you have.
Everybody's got better body movement.
Everybody does, I know. You're quite the man, Richard. Yeah, it looks like he's having fun. Here's Ed practicing the inverted landing technique. Oh man, this poor guy's getting through the mill. Smile for the camera! Determined to show us the best of the Canadian stunt world. As he dives into the ground with the test plane again. There goes Wendy's test plane. Oh no! Oh no, Uncle Bill! Oh, another inverted landing. I'm so happy. You think the man would be humble. Is he humble? He says, hey, Wendy, you got more planes. Just go home and get another one. No problem. Hey! Now, I know, your dream come true would be to be on a Wendy video, right? You're so sick of looking at those Wendy videos. Now you could be on one. See, now people can laugh at you. The back of this spinner and the motor, and this is what happens when you fly with a chipped prop. Oh boy, you're lucky that didn't come out. Wow. Man, you're lucky. You could have hit Ed Cotton. The Canadian government would have sent their embassy here. Emissary.
The Canadian government would have sent you a congratulatory.
They would have sent us 2 Canadian yen. What do you call Canadian money? Yen or polkas or something? When I went up there, they called it toilet paper.
All that funny.
And this is the man who said, my energy never ends. Good night, Earth people. Man, we wore you to a nub, baby.
Hey man, this is the hardest I've worked.
This is hard work. This is not like being in Canada or something.
This ain't like RC.
Take a rest. We got hard work to do when we get home. We have to go out for Italian food tonight. Save some energy for eating pizza. Today's little trip involves picking up Bob Zambelli at this airport, Saalburg Airport.
He's still in his cockpit there.
We get here just in time for Bob to unload his whatever he's unloading here. And we're going to be heading out to Northlands to tour the world's biggest model railroad, which is about an hour south of my house in New Jersey.
For an easy way out. How you doing? My pleasure. Bob, my pleasure.
How are you?
Wendy, Bob Zambelli.
You ever meet me? My name is Dan Rutherford. I'm the Iranian diplomat.
Lay down across the road. Touching.
Nice little place in the country. Down here with the idea of going to Northlands, this model railroad, giant model railroad, and we wound up checking out some pretty nice stuff down at this little Saalburg Airport, which is just north of Northlands. And of course, any day you spend with Ed Cotton, Bob Zambelli, Arnie Haber, you just can't get a better set of friends than this. Like the A26 exhaust here, Bob, only the AT...
with the single collector?
No, the 26 has multiples, but one of the variations that I did see had a collector. I don't know, maybe some of these were retrofit with different engines.
I saw when he's taken off at night, there was a blue flame like
oh yeah,
out the pipe.
yeah, very cool. That's how they get that exhaust stain on the side. Very. What do you think, Arnie? Should you buy me one?
Cylinders out.
You used to work on these, right?
Out of round, yeah.
This is the 1340 compression ratio, 6-to-1. Yeah, they put out about 190 horse. Yeah, but you can run them on 0 up. Yeah. That is
But somebody did a nice job on that spinner. There's a really good-looking guy holding a video camera on that spinner. Wow.
I see a good-looking guy here in a white.
Nah, he's in second place.
Get out of here. No.
Well, you will be until somebody else gets here. Look at that spinner. Is that wild?
Yeah, that's really. Look at every bolt safety.
Oh yeah. Beautiful.
They got to be tessellated. Imagine the maintenance on this boat.
Oh yeah. You know what, but this is from the day and age when there was an awful thing happened. Everybody had a job.
Exactly.
Nobody ran computers and everybody had a
They didn't go on
job.
strike and hold out for more money. They just did their job.
Everybody had a
How
job.
many hours you have in that VCR?
Like a Hamilton
that V8 that camcorder.
Anybody left in the world that would love to see Wendy fly one of these.
That's what
I still have about a 40-minute video that we took, but Karen got me a riding one.
Sony, that is
About 2 or 3 years ago. It was my Father's Day birthday present. It was a light, I even did some aerobatics in it. It was really, really, something you remember the rest of your life.
Has a car.
Fabulous. Looks like we're headed for a great day here. I'm not going to carry the...
Sell you anything.
I'm not going to carry the camera all around Northlands, but just so you get an idea. Yeah, this is a dedicated model railroad for HO gauge trains. It has 8 miles of track. There's nothing in here but HO gauge trains.
What are you,
8 miles.
or something? What are you, some kid?
Yeah, I like everything.
You like it?
Being old is great, believe me. I might have mentioned I had John Brodak's brother passed away basically in the same time window as Father Regis Rhoda did. And we wanted to make some little tribute to him. His name was Joe Brodak, and we have made him the co-pilot of the A-26. Back at the house, Ed's got his injectable, we ran out of glue. Number one, let's tell him why you ran out of glue.
Oh, this is the morning pick-me-up.
He didn't want to
Ran out
drink
of
coffee.
glue, Wendy, only, yeah.
Yeah, come on,
Only
come
for
on, come
one
on.
reason. It's because it evaporated. Even in a hypo like this. Hi, sweetie. And only in a hypo like this, it'll still go away. So it doesn't last more
I think
than a
the
couple
phone's
of days.
ringing. Hang
Yeah,
on.
you better get that. Boy.
You're being boycotted by a bird.
Go, Matt.
All right, Ed's going to describe his method. What we wanted to do is, and this is the styrene that we used earlier, and I'll let him talk about how he made the templates. Now, he made 4 templates for, we're not going to have time to do it because he's got to get back to Canada.
Okay.
The Prime Minister called him up and said, get your ass back to Canada, Cotton.
Exactly.
Okay,
So I've only got 3 templates made, Wendy, so we're going to take a few minutes and just make the...
okay. So give me the whole,
I'm doing this the same way, probably to start off with, that Les did. In the
Okay.
fact that I'm running, I don't have very long fingernails, so I'm just carefully running my nail
okay.
up here.
Just to put an impression in the
Just an
paper.
impression. Now,
Okay.
once I've done that, I've at least got a starting point. I also know where basically I started from. So now I'm going to cut this out of this piece of paper and
Okay.
transfer the impression to a piece of styrene. And all I got to do is find a pair of scissors.
Oh, here, the scissors are over here.
Are they? Okay. Alrighty. Yeah. Thank you.
Now, the objective here, we want to have an ink line that's about equally spaced from the fillet. We don't want to have a straight line. I want to have that line that would be kind of like the real machine, but the real machine, of course, has a much larger fillet, so we have to improvise here a little bit to get the scale look without being scale. And before, we actually are in the best day of the year. Ed brought the great weather with him. Before this, we got another coat of clear on all the parts. Last night I got the co-pilot, Joe Brodak, on. I'm not going to put, I was going to put a lot of other people's names underneath it like I have on a B-25 that made parts, but I'm not going to because both of these people are recent people that have passed away in the last couple of weeks, actually. And I don't want to take anything away from the fact that they are the pilot and co-pilot. Okay, now that's paper.
Yeah. All I've done, this is just bond paper.
Okay.
And for templates that certainly with a curve in them, I only brought 40 thou styrene with me, Wendy. But,
Okay.
but you could use 30 with this, and the beauty about 30 thou is it's a little bit more flexible than this.
Right.
I mean, this has got a
And you
little
can
bit of...
bend that, unlike a ruler, you can just
Yeah.
put a curve in it
You can preset this just by doing what I'm doing. I'm curling it around my finger and thumb.
and
you
get a
can-
good fit on the wing.
and take some tension out of it, which makes life a little easier. Now, the 30 thou ones will lay down a little bit better, but it's a bit of a trade-off, because if your 30 thou one, you've only got a 30 thou edge to run your pen around, whereas the 40 thou one...
But once
got
you
a
put the
little bit-
tape underneath it, it's insignificant.
Anyway,
You
yeah,
know, probably 10,000 would be okay, as long as you keep the edge up off.
up a little bit.
The only place you can get burned on this is if the ink goes underneath.
Now, I'm checking this, and I don't like this part here. This is running out a bit. So
Okay.
I know I'm going to add a little bit to that.
Okay.
And I know that I'll have to just test this and muck around with it. Now, styrene is great because it's a scribe and snap material.
Okay, let's
Yeah.
show the screw. Well, we've already shown, but let's show it again.
All right. Well, I got some 40 thou scrap over here. Let me just get the...
Oh, you need the pad, the cutting pad.
Where did that go off?
By the way, boy, this clear is drying up today. What do you think? It's 90 degrees out there? It must be 85 degrees.
Yeah, it's pretty close. It's very, very warm. beautiful day. I hope it's nice like this in Toronto when I go back.
I heard it's snowing up there.
Yeah, you probably heard it. Waiting the Mounties off in the air.
When Ed's wife called up, she was I was ready for her to tell us, oh yeah, we're buried under 7 feet of snow.
And speaking of buried under, I don't know where the... Okay. Now, of course, I'm not too organized.
Ed's not too organized here today.
It's all right. It's all right. We're amongst...
Hey, but considering how much we're paying you, I'm lucky I'm getting this.
Nothing for nothing. Still leaves nothing, bud.
Give you a pay increase, and I don't get anything in return.
All right. So, I'm just going to trace around this as best I
Okay.
can now.
So you're going from the paper to the styrene.
Yep. I'm going to transfer that hash mark that I got there, because
Okay.
that's where I started. Styrene is a very beautiful material because you can scribe it like this, snap it like that, and usually the edges are very clean. You can just, a little scrape with the X-Acto knife, it's
Right.
very smooth, take the burr off, you leave a very slick edge to run a pen around, and it's useful for all sorts of things like that. I'm just going to make this a little bit oversized there because I noticed that the paper template had run out a little bit.
Now keep in mind, this is the man who made the coal loader. This is what he does for a living. So he's got tips and tricks that I feel like many people can learn these. I hope he'll write something up in Stunt News
Yeah,
for
I'll
us.
be glad to write something like
And
that.
do a couple of pictures, or he's finishing up his little Cardinal. Do a couple ink lines on the Cardinal and make that the thing.
I will do that, Wendy.
Like 101 templating. I think that'd be great.
Yeah, I will do that. I'm just leaving that. Now, styrene is good because you can dress it off with a file. I usually use a file, but a sanding stick works really good.
Okay.
I'm just wanting to get a few of the bumps out of this, and you can be as careful or as
Yeah, of
rough
course.
as you want to be.
But as
obviously.
opposed to, see, here's the difference. When we were making these with 64th plywood, right now, there's always a little...
Yeah.
That it's very difficult to get a smooth, absolutely, you know what I'm talking
Well,
about.
Wendy, you recall when I was, I had ordered the Inkline video from you because I wanted to see how you did it and what pens you used and stuff. And as I was watching it, I'm thinking, and you're using
You were
Ply
thinking,
for this, I'm thinking,
What does he know?
not at all, I'm just
Who
thinking...
showed him these tricks?
Well, I didn't really, actually I did think that, but I ain't gonna say so.
Nah, don't say it on video. Don't worry, the camera's not running now. That red light is
Yeah, that doesn't mean anything.
Chicky's tail light.
Yeah, but I'm thinking this would maybe be a lot of use to you. You'd get a lot of mileage
Yes.
out of this. The beauty about
Well, not
this
only me, other people.
Yeah,
I mean,
no kidding.
people that want to know how to ink their plane. That's the whole deal.
The beautiful part about this stuff is that it's very inexpensive in comparison to plywood. 64th ply, I don't know how much a sheet, 1 by 4
Oh, it's like
would
$10
be.
a sheet.
Okay, well, this stuff here, in Canada, I can buy a 4 by 8 of this for $15 or $16.
Oh, forget it.
So, I
So
mean...
you get a lifetime supply. You never have to even
One
deal
4
with
by
it.
8. You get some 30 and 40 thou, and you can fabricate a lot of stuff with this, but that's another video.
Another thing, if it doesn't fit in your car on a 4x8 sheet, it's real easy. Cut it and put it in a trunk. Just cut it with
yeah.
a scribe like
Good
you
thing
just
you
did.
don't want to roll this stuff up because it takes a set,
Yes.
and as
yes.
it takes a set, it'll take a while for it to come back down again. Now this is pretty good. You could mess around with this a little bit. I don't know how much time we've got.
No,
but
don't make yourself crazy.
The good thing about this, as I say, is
Les and I are gonna ink the plane up probably later this week or when we get back from Texas. I don't know.
With just the X-Acto and a couple of scrapes with this, you can change the shape of this ever so slightly. I would cut a piece off this as I've done on the other
Sure,
ones
just to save it.
to save it and also to make it a bit more flexible.
Now what I'm gonna do, and I would suggest other people do it, I have my box with all my Inkline templates.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna keep Ed's leaving some material for me. He also left a video with interesting tips. Oh, look at the name of the video, Ed. What are you, Mr. Ed?
The wonderful
A horse is a horse, of course, of course. No one can talk to a horse. No, but here's the whole point is, I'll find tips on that video and I'll put them on future videos.
You'll need to play with that a bit, Wendy, but
Okay. No, that's fine.
That's the method. And
Leave that exactly how you have it. I want Les to see that.
okay,
Assuming he's at a gun meet today, a gun thing. And I'm not gonna try inking a plane by myself. I've already had that lucky experience, and we could skip that one. But anyway, that's the little templating trick. I hope that we're gonna see something in Stunt News, and Also, we're going to be going to Toronto when? In May? Hopefully May of March of next year.
March of next year.
Yeah, because we've had a couple of days while Ed Cotton was here and a couple of days after, we've really had some great painting weather. I put some rivet lines on the cowls just to see if I'd like them. These are not rivets, they're actually Zeus fittings. And I didn't want to make it too crazy so it starts to look like polka dots, but that seemed to have worked out well. And I wanted to show, before we get on to the wing, I wanted to show one of the things you can always do when you have to touch up a part. Now, I put my finger in this part last night. Let me show this. This is the way I would go about touching it up. What I did, this side, of course, came out nice. I was putting a coat of clear on it. I had the blade stuck in here. And it looked like it was just going to come off, and the breeze was blowing, and I stuck my finger in it. Where's the spot? Right here. And since it's on the top, what you can see has happened. When I touched up the silver, it didn't look exactly the way I wanted, and I wasn't happy with it. So what I did is I shot a coat of clear on the whole thing, then went over and touched up the silver. But now what I have to do is go back over all the ink lines and rivets and everything, and it'll be maybe a half an hour of extra work. But it was on the upper side, and I thought you can see how this, once that was touched up, the shading kind of looked fake there or whatever. Whenever you have to do a touch-up on a part that already has ink lines, it's not a problem at all. Do the touch-up. And even if you can't see the ink lines, usually you can see the impression of the pen, and you can just go right back over it, and that's what we're going to do right now. And then, of course, go put some clear on it. Now, if we still can see it, then I could even just back mask this little area. But I still need to do what amounts to be a whole refinish on this. And it's not, because we're not having a race, it's perfectly okay, and I do want to have it, as nice as I can make it anyway. Especially after seeing all these nice little tips Ed Cotton. And this video that Ed Cotton made us, we've been watching it in the shop. It's really, really good. Loaded with tips, and we're going to put some of those on future videos. Well, I got this from John Brodek. I think it's made by Top Flight. But anyway, this is what I use to do the Zeus. These really make better Zeus fittings than rivets. If you were to rivet the whole plane, it might look out of scale. But typically around any cowl of any World War II plane, the parts come apart with relatively big round, look like big screws from the outside, but they're really Zeus fittings. This does a nice job of replicating them. Yeah, it's made by Top Flight. I see it right there. But I did get this from John Brodek, and it's a real handy tool. What I tried to do on touch-ups in the past is just touch up the ink lines in the spots where I think it would be necessary. And the problem with that is, when you're all done with the refinish, you can see where you've ended the repair. So in this case, what I'm going to do is just re-ink, go right over the old ink lines, because especially with silver, you have little dots of silver on the ink lines, and that really doesn't look like, it doesn't look like the look I want. So it's pretty easy. It's not really a big deal even to do this, but I really do want to take care of it. Hey! You're gone, Chicky. I'm telling you something. Ed Cotton was bored to death with you. I'm bored to death. Ed's going to take you back to Toronto. Toronto, it's cold in Toronto. Anyway, here's an example of it. If you were to skip this line, right here you have some little, trying to get them on the video, I'm not sure I'm getting them. Right there you can see there's some little imperfections. Well, we'd really like to have this with as few imperfections as possible, and so it's basically going to take probably an hour to re-ink this and redo the shading, but I think in the long run, because we expect to hope that we'll have this model forever, it'll be well worth it to do the touch-up. Never be afraid to take the time to do a good touch-up. In the end, you'll always think, well, that was a good investment. Unfortunately, we're almost at the end of this tape, but I need to lay out, look, I got it upside down. I got to lay out these templates. Ed marked these, each one up, and of course put the tape on the bottom. We'll save these for Mike Costello. Hopefully he'll be able to use them too. 3 layers of tape is usually enough. Get it right up on the end. We've done this before. I'm going to start laying this out, but we are nearly at the end of this tape. I hate to end these tapes in the middle of things, but there's just so much stuff going on. And we only have a few days left before we're going to have to start making decisions and packing for Texas. And if you're a subscriber, you'll get to see all the action. If you're not a subscriber, you'll be sorry. Now, I need to lay out all the lines I'm going to do here. I'm going to try to lay out all the simple stuff before Les gets here. All the things I need 2 people for. And that means we have a template now, 1, and he's got a mark for each one of these lines. And that is a tremendous good tip. This material is really nice to work with. I wish I had this years ago. And the price compared to 64th plywood is not even, it's pennies. I really feel like since we were privileged to have Ed for our house guest, we really have learned some things that are worth sharing, and these ink templates are definitely one of them. Using this material instead of 64th plywood for ink templates is worth the whole price of the video. And that just, if it gets any easier than that, that's the tip of the century right there. And thanks, Ed Cotton. You just can't imagine how, when you have one little tip that can set you off in a direction that everything gets easier. And we really have been lucky here. This has gone so efficiently, I guess is the right word. We've just been lucky. And I can imagine that there's a lot of people that have problems doing ink, or they're afraid of doing ink, or they just don't want to do ink, or for whatever reason. But when you can lay out curved fillet lines this quickly, it opens the door to some very, very creative modeling. That is the tip of the century. Another example, I stripped off a piece of this material. I've laid out dots on here, but this material conforms so nicely. I'm with you always. I'm with you always. But it just doesn't get a lot easier than that. Stretching a piece of tape, I can get all these lines that divide the nacelles to be hopefully parallel, or very close to being parallel. And what I'm going to try to do is finish up the nacelle inking, and then when Les gets here, we're going to do the rings. And actually, we'll probably be on another video by then, but this is really working well. And I made some thin stripes, some other shapes. Anything you see that's an unusual shape, you know, I just made a template. Really nice material to work with. Thanks, Ed. Now, some of these lines, they're not really prototypical, but they're very close. I've laid them out with tape, and they're asymmetrical. Some of these hatches only appear on one side. But by laying them out with tape, I got a lot better chance of, you know, getting them kind of the way I want them. I come up with some of these hatches and some of these little, well, some details anyway.
Okay, so all I did was dimension here, dimension there, and dimension there.
Right.
This side comes out, it's like it's almost perfect from
You
the
just
get-go.
can't lay a flat piece of tape on here because these 2 lines, that's not going to be an exact even thing when you try to do it that way. Each one has to have a taper because it's getting smaller and smaller as the cone gets smaller. So to look similar to what we have in the prototype drawing, we've got to do this.
Now let's determine the distance.
Check that distance.
This is a little bit smaller than the last one. We'll do it with a pen. Here we are.
Laying out the little points of reference is always a good idea here.
Let's go from, just for kicks, let's go
Now
to here, make it just a little bit smaller.
Yeah, we're just going to pick this up on the next tape because we are right at the end of this tape. So
Okay, well.
let's get this line in, and then we'll, ironically enough, the curve that Ed Cotton made in our template here is very close to being this one, so we're not even going to have to make a new template.
Let's see what we got here.
As long as you have reference points, you can get it pretty accurate. And then, of course, we can transpose this over into the other line, which will be real handy.
That's gonna go back a 16th.
And I guess we're going to just bail out here, and we will see you on the next tape.
I'm very glad we didn't do that yet.
Well, that's why we pay you the big money, Les. More on the next tape. Join us for the end of the inking in the clear.